After years of hype, MV Agusta finally enters the fray with the F3. The fresh-faced MV follows Triumph's successful middleweight formula with its own version of a 675cc inline 3, giving riders the mid-range torque of a twin and the hard-hitting top end of a 4-cylinder. The F3 also incorporates advanced electronics inside an exceptionally compact package to deliver an experience like few other production bikes can.
For me, it's the bike with the most potential in the shootout. It handles good, it's nimble. I love the seating position and the ergonomics of it. I love the quick shifter on it. That worked actually really well, probably better than any of the other 2 or 3 bikes that actually had the quick shifter.
It was such a different feel, a different sound, a different feel of the motor. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but once out on the track, everything came together. Turn-in was a breeze. The only thing that kind of caught me off guard was the acceleration. You know, you're waiting for it, and you're like, is it coming? And once it comes, it pops. Like, it is a very visceral feeling. You know, it felt great, but at the same time, I was like, kind of wondering, when's it gonna drop in?
I was surprised. You turn the throttle on that thing, and it goes. A little soft off the bottom, but once it's in the revs, snappy motorcycle. I think the electronics were kind of working against the bike. You go to let off the gas, it kind of likes to keep going. So that took a little getting used to, but bike's got a lot of potential.
As you get into the corner, you crack the throttle open, and it feels like the bike has full power, and it feels a little bit jerky on off throttle, like it's a little bit too aggressive. But then as you roll the throttle on to exit the corner, it feels like the bike doesn't, like something's holding it back. It feels like the motor wants to go faster, but that it's kind of choked off a little bit. It ranked pretty far down the list for me, but that's mostly because of the electronics. I think if you could control that issue, I think that the bike would have ranked quite a bit higher.
The bike was probably my slowest bike in terms of lap times, but I couldn't tell when I was riding it, because when I was riding it, I was having a blast. Like, it's so raw. Like, you get on the gas on the thing, this bike like squats crazy style, gets all crazy gangster with it, and then like you gas it and you like zip out. It's definitely not the fastest way, but it definitely feels awesome. And it's that kind of adrenaline, like that kind of sporting experience that makes it so fun to ride. Like if I just wanted a bike to go to do track days with, where I'm not concerned about lap times or anything, I just want to have a big ass grin after the end of the day, the MV Agusta F3 would be that, because it's such a sensory rich bike. Like everything it does crazy and it does exciting.
In terms of fun and sheer excitement, the F3 delivers in spades. This charismatic Italian triple rewards its rider with a snappy power band and grin-inducing engine shriek that has to be heard to believe. While many of our testers appreciated certain aspects of the F3, including its maneuverability and turning accuracy, its quirky throttle response along with ineffective suspension damping made it tricky to ride at the limit during Superpole. If MV could sort out some of the bugs, there's little question this bike will run up front. Ducati is known for bending class rules and satisfying a niche with its Italian-designed and built bikes. It peeved Japanese rivals 5 years ago with its original twin-cylinder powered 848, and later followed with an Evo spec model designed to better bridge the performance gap between it and 4-cylinder sport bikes. Fast forward to today, and this 2013 848 Evo Special Edition is still the platform Ducati competes within the middleweight segment.
Great sound and motorcycle, like it's a beautiful motorcycle, but I was really disappointed. It was a high effort to ride that motorcycle. It took a lot. I mean, there's no doubt it's a great motorcycle and people have proven they can go fast on it. But, you know, box stock, showroom floor, it needs a little bit of help. It needs some massaging, and it was noticeable compared to some of the other bikes with lap times. There's no doubt about that.
I always come into these tests and I want to be super excited about the Ducati. You know, you see everyone else riding them at the track, having a great time, and it's never that experience for me. I think partly because it is a much bigger bike. The cockpit feels huge for me. The stretch to the handlebars just feels extra long across that long tank, and then it's just a bike that's hard to control, and especially after being on all these Swiss watches, these Japanese bikes, it was hard to really feel the Ducati out.
For me, I just couldn't get it to turn. There was a lot of times when I'd get the thing on the edge of the tire and the bike wanted to keep running straight, so through throttle modulation, I couldn't get the bike, even on the edge of the tire, as I roll the throttle off, I couldn't get it to cut back. I think that that's a setup issue. It's probably stuff that some of the guys that have been racing them have had trouble with. I think if we could come out here and make some more adjustments and do some things, it would probably take a little bit more work for me personally to get that bike where I would need it, as opposed to some of the other ones. It was just a little bit harder bike to ride for me than the other bikes, which actually surprised me a little bit.
Obviously the styling of the Ducati is very nice, and you know, the exhaust note is very unique. It's nice to hear that deep V-twin sound. So, you know, it has some pluses and some minuses for sure. The bike's very narrow, which is nice, but yet it feels really heavy. It feels top heavy, which in turn makes it hard to transition in the corners left to right. And also it seemed to be in between gears in a lot of the corners. Third gear would be too tall and second gear would be too short. So it kind of upset the bike a little bit.
You really got to mind your P's and Q's when you ride the Ducati and make sure you're in the right gear, at the right speed, at the right part of the track. Because if you're not, it screws up your whole lap time because the bike just can't pull it. You can't get those fantastic drives out of the corner, and it kind of just compromises the lap time.
The Ducati impresses with its punchy V-twin engine, quick shifter, and capable Brembo braking hardware. But its extra heft, paired with an unorthodox riding position, make it demanding to ride at speed. Factor in the sluggish handling and corner speeds that were at or near the bottom, and it's no surprise that the Ducati registered the slowest Super Bowl times. No doubt the 848 delivers in some areas, however it's just not enough to hide its age. Engineered for racers seeking an effective and easily modifiable race bike, Suzuki's GSXR750 has been a favorite for club and professional racers alike. Even though it received a refresh 2 years ago, today's GSXR 6 is one of the older platforms in this contest. Can it still compete against the newer generation machines?
Well, obviously, doing as many schools as I do every year, and as my long association with Suzuki, I'm pretty familiar with the 600. Unbelievable motorcycle, but it still just lacks that acceleration out of the corners, and that's why the lap time suffered so much on that bike compared to the other. The chassis and all the other good things about it are great, but the acceleration is kind of a typical GSXR 600 for me. It's one of those bikes where if you get stuck in a gear too short, it's too short, and if you're rolling through a corner in a gear too tall, it has nothing on your exits. When I used to race those bikes, we used to always have to gear them really short so that I could get them to accelerate, and it's still kind of the same bike.
Like the 750, handles great, brakes are great, suspension's great, and you can really go fast on that bike in stock trim, no problem. Very confidence inspiring.
It was easy to ride. It was predictable. The engine maybe wasn't the fastest, but it still pulled out of the corner, and it still shifted well. The slipper clutch on it works really well. The addition of those monoblock Brembo calipers, they work great, man. The thing stops on a dime, and it's easy to use when you're trail braking into corners.
I think it's getting a little bit long in the tooth for me, the styling on the bike. It doesn't quite match up with some of the newer models that we had in the shootout. I think it needs a little update to spruce it up a little bit, make it look a little bit sharper and a little bit more attractive to the consumers. But all around on the track, it's a good bike. It doesn't present any huge flaws, but it also doesn't really stand out in any one area.
The Suzuki is as familiar as a worn-in glove. Handling is predictable, but it lacks the pinpoint accuracy of the leaders. In the end, the Suzuki 600 is a good performing motorcycle that does many things well, but unfortunately nothing outstanding. Middle-of-the-road scores, including its Super Pole average, hurt it on the scorecard, keeping it adrift of the Supersport crown for another year. The 750 powered GSXR ushered in the modern era of replica racers and has been produced continuously for almost 30 years. Updated 2 years ago, today's 750 continues to employ a 600-style chassis stuffed with an oversized inline-4 engine, undoubtedly a recipe for success.
Obviously, with a 750 in with all the middleweight bikes, it definitely has the power advantage. It feels like a 600 that's got a built race motor in it, but it's stock. So it makes it a lot more fun to ride. Definitely a lot more torque in the motor, so there's less shifting involved. With the 600, you would be catching extra upshifts and downshifts at different places on the track, whereas with the 750, you could either just leave it in that gear, or you could carry a gear higher and use the torque of the motor to pull you off the corner.
It's very similar to its brother, the 600, but those extra ponies make a difference, So everything feels the same, the chassis, the turn-in, the ergonomics. It just had that little bit more grunt power that I needed.
To me, it's probably one of my favorite bikes that I've ridden over the years. And at this test, it kind of shone through itself again, as far as it was a bike that you could go fast on really easily. That said, again, I think that if somebody else jumped into the class and made Suzuki make that bike better, they could make it better still.
I've got a lot of time on one of those, and I think without a doubt is one of the most fun sport bikes that's out today. It does everything great. It's kind of been the same for a while, and some of the other bikes are catching up to it as far as technology goes, but 750 holds its own, and it's fast.
I've owned a couple of these bikes, and I would buy the 2013 again. It seems like it's got the perfect balance between power, weight, and handling. Just like the GSXR750, nothing really stood out. It wasn't as agile as the Honda. It wasn't as steadfast as maybe the Kawasaki, the Ultra Planet Kawasaki. But at the same time, it just did everything well. Overall, bang for the buck, you're not going to find a better value than the Suzuki GSX-R750, and that's why I've always bought them. They bring everything to the table for not a whole lot of money.
You'll be hard-pressed to ride a more versatile or easier handling bike than this 3/4 liter Suzuki. A broad power band, predictable steering, and friendly cockpit allow fast laps to come at ease, as proven by its Super Pole times at or near the top of the timesheet. Despite competence in many categories, it's missing that special something that separates great bikes from the truly exceptional. Still, if you're seeking a well-rounded racer with a little extra motor, the GSXR750 will be just what you're looking for.